Hello friends, for today's video I want to go through a list of some anticipated fantasy releases for the month of May. Really quick, a couple housekeeping things. I do have my microphone in frame and much closer to me. Do you prefer the sound quality this way, or do you prefer when it's out of frame? Do you feel like it doesn't really make enough of a difference to warrant it being in frame? And then second, part of why I'm testing this out today is because somebody is doing yard work, one of my neighbors, and I fear that if I don't have the microphone close to me that you'll be able to hear it. You might hear it anyway, hopefully not. I really don't want there to be that distraction for you, but filming waits for no leaf blower. So if you do hear it, apologies, but I really want to make sure that we get this out in a timely fashion. Let me know, though, your feedback on the microphone situation. Before officially jumping into the May anticipated releases, I wanted to highlight something that's coming out at the very end of April, specifically April 29th, called The Crimson Fire. The synopsis for this one says, "Gods walk among men, but the empire they have forged is on the brink of collapse. As whispers of rebellion grow louder, Anji, a fiercely loyal soldier, uncovers a dangerous plot that could shatter the divine reign. On the other side, Eshvin, a cunning rebel leader, is stoking the flames of dissent, while Shadi, a young noblewoman torn between duty and independence, must navigate treacherous political waters with her devoted bodyguard Darshan by her side. Loyalties will be tested, truths unmasked, and the fate of the empire will hang in the balance." Also, it says that there is dark political intrigue, dangerous gods, complex loyalties, and morally gray characters. So high fantasy with political intrigue and a cast of characters. Absolutely something I'm very excited about. I know a lot of us are consistently looking for epic fantasy, and we feel like maybe we're not getting as much of that these days, especially with newer releases. So I feel this is going to remedy a lot of the gaps that we have in our new fantasy releases. Really excited for this one. I think it sounds fantastic. And a reminder, this one is actually technically coming out April, specifically April 29th. All that said, as usual, I will have all of the projected release dates and pre-order links to all of these books in the description bar down below so that you can reference back to those at your convenience. I'm also going to go in order of projected release date, and we're going to kick it off with May 6th. We have a few different books for this release date. The first one would be Brighter the Scale, Swifter the Flame. And the tagline at the top says that it's an armored, oath-bound hero reminiscent of the Mandalorian and the Asian-inspired epic fantasy of She Who Became the Sun. So I thought that that mix already sounded really cool, really different, but as far as the actual setup that is established within the synopsis, it says, "Few know the true identity of the masked guild knight. She barely remembers herself. The masked guild knight, Yiva, was 13 when she killed her first dragon. With her gift revealed, she was shipped away to the imperial capital to train in the rare art of dragon slaying. Now a legendary dragon hunter, she has never truly felt at home nor removed her armor in public since that fateful day all those years ago. Yiva must now go to a fiercely independent and reclusive kingdom. It is rumored that there dragons are not feared as it is right and proper, but instead loved and worshipped. It is rumored that there they harbor a dragon behind their borders. While Yiva searches for the dreaded beast, she is welcomed into the palace by the monarch, Lady Soki. Though wary of each other, Yiva is shocked to find herself slowly opening up to the beautiful, mysterious queen. As they grow closer, Yiva longs to let Lady Soki see the person behind the armor, but she knows she must fulfill her purpose and slay the dragon. Ultimately, she must decide who or what she is willing to betray, her own heart or the sacred duty that she has called home for so long." The general setup of this sounds really incredible. Just a heads up that this does look to be a novella. So it is going to be on the shorter side. It's going to be put out by Tor, I believe. And it's interesting because I know a lot of you heard me talk quite a bit about the Fireborn Blade, which also was a dragon slaying fantasy. So there's a part of me that's wondering, are we getting a return to dragon slaying fantasy? I'm not necessarily opposed to us doing that because I felt like the Fireborn Blade, while it utilized that familiar foundation that is within fantasy, I thought it did something really cool and unique with it by integrating these somewhat horror aspects as well. And this one, obviously, it seems like there's going to be a culture difference between where our main character is from and where they're going. So it could be really cool. I am always a little on the fence about really shorter works, but I think that that's just something I need to get over because so many authors write short fantasy exceptionally, and some of the books I end up really enjoying and taking me by surprise are the ones that are on the shorter side. Next up, also on May 6th, we have The Lost Queen. This is the first book in an epic fantasy YA duology. The setup says Jolie Lam, a high school sophomore in San Jose, is known for two things: her bizarre freak out at last year's swim meet and her fortune teller grandfather with visions of dragons and earthquakes. Friendless and ostracized, Jolie's life takes a dramatic turn for the better when she saves the school's it girl Huang during a haunting vision of her own. Taken under Huang's wing, Jolie's world transforms in more ways than one. As Jolie and Huang's bond deepens, they unlock long-lost powers, telepathic abilities, fluency in Vietnamese, and eerie premonitions. This leads them to a shocking revelation: they have ties to legendary queens and goddesses of ancient Vietnam, while a thrilling discovery also sets them on a perilous journey. The girls must navigate dreams and portals to piece together their past lives and reclaim their immortal elements before their ancient enemies strike again. But all is not what it seems, and Jolie must determine friend from foe, truth from lie, and ultimately right from wrong in this battle for all she loves and the fate of the world. I like that jump between the stakes of right from wrong, all she loves, and also the fate of the whole world. But it does sound like it could be really, really fun. And just the general idea of the main character, it seems like there is this very relatable, almost silly quality to them. I do wonder if this is going to be a YA fantasy that maybe leans a little bit on the younger end of young adult, which I actually am excited about if that's the case, because I like fantasy of all age ranges, and I think it's great when we do see YA that leans on the younger side, because we need those transitions, of course, out of middle grade into the kind of older end of young adult, because when you go from being a 10-year-old to... Obviously, the difference between a 10-year-old and an 18-year-old is pretty big, and there are some very important formative years in that in-between. So I think it's great when there are works that kind of match that level, and it sounds like this one could be, but of course I won't know till I pick it up. I did get an arc of this one though, so I think that this is one that I will definitely be getting around to sooner rather than later. The last one for May 6th would be Where There Be Monsters. So speaking of middle grade books, this does look to be one, and it's being compared to Amari and the Night Brothers, which has me very excited. I think Amari and the Night Brothers is darling and wonderful, so excited to see that comp title. I do want to note, some of the books that I'm mentioning today are these ones that sound so fun and so adventurous. There's going to be one that I mentioned that sounds like it's going to be kind of a cutesy, cozy fantasy romance. So we have those, and then we have The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. So I'm amused that we have not only some of these coming out the same month, but some of them are even coming out on the same day as The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. We'll get around to that. I'm very excited. We'll get around to that. But anyway, back to Where There Be Monsters. 11-year-old Glory Brown is desperate for adventure far from her family's quaint, quiet life at the Light Inn. Generations of Browns have been stewards of this humble hotel, which acts as a sanctuary in the stretch of monster-filled land called the Seam. But Glory wants nothing more than to learn how to use her moxie, special magic only kids have, and to train to become a Spheraut like her mother, exploring and documenting the perilous depths of the outer sphere. When a mysterious boy named Marcus appears one day on a top-secret mission from the Parliamentarium, the school for aspiring Spheronauts, Glory packs up her beloved books and sets off on a once-in-a-lifetime journey that will shuttle her across time and space and reveal new dangers lurking in the worlds beyond the Seam. For there's mischief afoot that's threatening the balance between the worlds, its magic and its monsters, and it's up to Glory to find a solution before it's too late. Regardless of age range, the magical aspects to this sound so fun and so creative. So I'm really, really hopeful, because I just think that that one sounds like such a great time. Next up, we have a single book for May 8th, and this one is titled Showing Silver. The description says, magic is dangerous. Kira knows that better than anyone. Unfortunately, she's a natural, gifted with magic from birth. She's done her best to suppress her power, but at 19, it's more difficult than ever. Worse, there are whispers of a threat from the neighboring kingdom, and a gift as strong as hers could turn the tide. All Kira wants to do is heal. If she trains to use her magic, she fears she'll be called upon to serve in battle. But if she doesn't, not only can she hurt those around her, but she will be powerless to halt the building assault on her kingdom. Soon, Kira will have to make a choice: face her fears and accept her magic, or watch her kingdom fall. Can she learn to walk the line between healing and destruction? This is the first book in a duology, specifically the Arcane duology, and I, in general, always like stories where characters have to decide between being a healer and then having to fight. That reminds me in some ways of some of the character development and introspection that we see with characters like Kaladin from Stormlight Archive, so I do always find I have a soft spot for those types of characters. The first one for this date would be Anji Kills a King, and it is being compared to Joe Abercrombie and R.F. Kuang, so I'm very curious to see if, upon picking this up, if I agree with those author comparisons. But the synopsis says, she killed for a cause, will she die for it too? Anji works as a castle servant, cleaning laundry for a king she hates. So when a rare opportunity presents itself, she seizes the chance to cut his throat. Then she runs for her life. In her wake, the kingdom is thrown into dismay, while a bounty bigger than anyone could imagine lands on her head. On her heels are the fabled mercenaries of the menagerie, whose animal-shaped masks are magical relics rumored to give them superhuman powers. It's the Hawk who finds Anji first, a surly, aging swordsman who has her own reasons for keeping Anji alive and out of the hands of her fellow bounty hunters, if only long enough to collect the reward herself. While the rest of the menagerie is on her trail, so begins an alliance as tenuous as it is temporary, and a race against death that will decide Anji's fate, and may change the the course of a kingdom. So I'm curious to see. I mean, I'm kind of amused at the bluntness of when the opportunity presents itself, she cuts his throat. It didn't just say when the opportunity presents itself, she kills him. It had to add the she cut his throat, that's how she killed him. So I'm like, maybe there's some parallels between this and Abercrombie. We'll see. I really like the cover design of this one. I think it's really unique and interesting. The color usage is different. Not, of course, that covers are everything, but a lot of artists do work very hard on the covers, so props to the cover artist of this one. This is also being put out by Tor. And then there's one thing I wanted to say, which is irrelevant, but I'm going to mention it anyway. Does anybody play the game Dominion? Because the Menagerie card is one of my favorites. I don't know why. I really like that card. It's not that good, but I always want to get it. Anytime I'm playing a game where Menagerie pops up, I'm like, oh, I gotta get it. Next up, we have The Incandescent. That's the full title, The Incandescent. And it's being compared to Naomi Novik, so we'll see. But it does seem to be a dark academia setting. Look at you eating magic like you're one of us. Dr. Walden is the director of magic at Chetwood School and one of the most powerful magicians in England. Her days consist of meetings, teaching A-level invocation to 4 talented, chaotic 6th formers, more meetings, and securing the school's boundaries from demonic incursions. Walden is good at her job. No, Walden is great at her job, but demons are masters of manipulation. It's her responsibility to keep her school with its 600 students and centuries-old legacy safe, and it's possible the entity Walden most needs to keep her school safe from is herself. Certainly my interest is piqued based off of how the synopsis ends. I'm very curious as well based off of the fact that this does seem to be a dark academia story, just exactly what they're going to do to embrace that setting, but also subvert any expectations and tropes that we often see within that setting. Also, the cover for this one, I was just complimenting the cover for the last one, but the cover for this one is absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to add one more additional irrelevant detail, but I'm very curious now. So it talked about how she has 600 students at this school, and I'm curious, how many people were at your high school or your graduating class? Because my graduating class, I'm pretty sure, was more than 600 students. Just the graduating class. I went to an enormous high school. And there were times where at the beginning of the year when people were having to get their schedules changed, because there's always that first, week or two where people's schedules are a little messed up. But I remember specifically my history class, government. It was a required class for all of us to take, which meant that it was fuller than maybe an elective or something of that sort. And there were so many of us that for the first week or two, there weren't enough desks in the class because there was like 48 of us or something like that. Anyway, to me that was normal. A lot of the schools where I was growing up had a lot of kids, but then when I talk to other people, they're always amazed at just how many kids were at my school, so I'm curious. It's, like I said, irrelevant, but I would be curious to know what your high school's graduating class was like. I mentioned before that I'm very amused that The Devils is coming out on the same day as another book that I would be talking about, and here we are at that book. We have landed here, and that would be Behooved. And it says, a charming, slow burn romantasy featuring a duty-bound noblewoman with a chronic illness and a prince who would rather be in a library than on a throne, and a magical ride through a world of cozy enchantment. It's like you took all the cutest, most charming love story words and you put them all together and you're releasing it on the same day as The Devils by Joe Abercrombie, known grimdark author. But regardless, the synopsis for this one says, Bianca knows her duty comes before her heart, so when the threat of war looms, she agrees to marry the neighboring kingdom's heir. But not all royal weddings are a fairy tale, and Prince Eric, Bianca's betrothed, is cold, aloof, and seems to hate her on sight. To make matters worse, on their wedding night, an assassination attempt goes awry, leaving Eric magically transformed into a horse. Bianca does what any bride in this situation would do. She mounts her new husband and rides away to safety. Sunset returns Eric to human form, but they soon discover the assassination attempt is part of a larger plot against the throne. Worse, Bianca has been framed for Eric's murder, and she's now saddled with a husband who is a horse by day, and sorry, it's so funny, and a frustratingly attractive man by night. As an unexpected romance begins galloping away with their hearts, the horse puns are great. Bianca and Eric must rely on each other to unravel the curse and save the throne. And also an author who left a quote for this book happens to be Sarah Beth Durst, who's an author whose works I quite like. Behooved is bewitchingly charming, a romantic fairy tale adventure that will sweep you off your feet or hooves. That's what Sarah Beth Durst's quote is. Yeah, it sounds hilarious and fun and cute, and like it doesn't take itself too seriously. It kind of reminds me of Shrek a little bit. I hope anyway. I haven't read it just yet. And I am looking forward to it because it sounds like it's going to be quite funny. The synopsis alone was quite amusing, so I hope that the story itself has a similar writing style. And then last, we are here, The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. I know some people have gotten early copies, and I know some of those people are my friends, and I am avoiding hearing their thoughts and seeing what they think. Like the plague, I don't want to know anybody's opinions about this. I don't want to know if they like it or they don't like it. I'm just excited to jump into adult fantasy by Abercrombie that is new and separate from the First Law world. So, the synopsis for this one. It says, holy work sometimes requires unholy deeds. Brother Diaz has been summoned to the sacred city where he is certain a commendation and grand holy assignment awaits him. But his new flock is made up of unrepentant murderers, practitioners of ghastly magic, and outright monsters. The mission he is tasked with will require bloody measures from them all in order to achieve its righteous ends. Elves lurk at our borders and hunger for our flesh, while greedy princes care for nothing but their own ambitions and comfort. With a hellish journey before him, it's a good thing Brother Diaz has the devils on his side. So that's it. That's all we're getting. I like how I just said, I don't want to see anybody else's thoughts, but NetGalley's like, 68 members have rated this, and it has 5 stars. So apparently from that, people are liking it. I can't wait for this. I'm so excited. I do think that the synopsis reminds me a little bit more of something like Best Served Cold as opposed to the First Law trilogy or Age of Madness. Just that feeling of we're kind of collecting people together and there's sort of a person at the center of it. But I imagine, if I had to take a guess, that some of the side characters are going to certainly steal the show. I'm very, very excited for this one. I can't wait. I'm pretty sure it's also going to be narrated by Stephen Pacey, who narrates his other works. I hope so, because all of us think Stephen Pacey is incredible. Because he is. I feel like it's undeniable. He's fantastic. So I can't wait. But that's it for some anticipated releases for May. I'm very curious if I missed any. Feel free, of course, to let us all know in the comments down below. And as I said at the beginning, any relevant information, projected release dates, or pre-order links will be in the description so you can reference back to those at your convenience. Thanks so much for watching, though. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Bye.